Welcome back to the Holosky Podcast, Listener Experience Edition. We are your hosts. I'm Steven.
And Kyle.
And it's the Listener Experience, so that means it's Thursday, which also means that all of you who work normal work weeks are about to have it kicked. We hope it's going well. We hope everybody's staying safe. Before we jump into this listener experience, we got to get through the business, so bear with us. Check us out at all social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Discord, Reddit, TikTok. Search up the Holosky Podcast. We will be there. You're invited to come and hang out with us. Join the cult. It's not as bad as it sounds. Be part of the community. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to have featured on a future episode of this show, Kyle has some info for you.
I do. You can write your story out. Try to use as much detail as you possibly can. Shoot it over to the email, which is going to be holoskypodcast@gmail.com. You can call or text the holophone, 618-556-0837. Any way you can get us that story, we're highly appreciative of it, and we will give it its own episode.
Yes, we will.
And it'll be lit.
You can send it in. We get to share it on air with the cult, bring in their perspective. You get to hear us talk about it. We don't know nothing, but we can talk about stuff.
It's a win-win.
It really is. Again, I don't pre-read these. I just kind of go into them, so bear with me. I also have a cold this week. If you'd like to support the show, plenty of ways to do it. You can head over to our Patreon and sign up there. Get ad-free shows, future or early shows, extra shows we put out over the years that aren't on regular rotation, strictly for patrons. All kinds of stuff. We're going to have some coupons out for merch, discounts, all sorts of stuff. You can go to our website, holoskypodcast.com, go to our merch store, find some of that merch, rep the Holocult. It's a cool thing to do. We're trying to go through some backstock so we can get some new stuff put out. You can also go to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review, which helps us out, and we like it a lot. If you leave us a 1-star, we don't like it, and we will make fun of you.
This is true.
Because that's what we do. Our listener experience today comes to us from our friend Oscar. And Oscar, I'm just going to title this Interacting with Spirits. Oscar says, "Hello. I've been listening to your podcast for a few years now, and I figured I'd give my input. In high school, I met this guy through a friend who brought up seeing and interacting with spirits. I had an open mind, so I indulged him. The guy who taught me about this part of the occult was named Shino. He was half Japanese and half Dominican, or so he claimed. I initially met this guy through another friend. My high school, by the way, was located in downtown Manhattan. Weird thing was, I didn't think about it at the time, was that he was in his 20s. After talking to Shino a few times, he took interest in me and started talking to me about all sorts of topics. Eventually, Shino brought up spirits. Me not being entirely convinced that they existed, but having an open mind, I indulged him. He described to me a procedure on how to work with the body's natural spiritual energy by focusing on chakras. Some reading or listening to this I would have immediately called bullshit, but I had never heard of chakras before he brought it up. Doing chakra meditations every day would aid in my ability to see spirits or non-physical entities. So that's what I did. Every time I meditated, I would have my eyes looking slightly up as if I were staring at my forehead, and I would focus on my third eye. At first, I just felt weightless, or my imagination would run into overdrive. Nothing crazy yet. Eventually, I began to feel, hear, and see things. Initially, it started out with sensations or pressures or what felt like a hand touching my thighs when I meditated. One time, there was a loud, singular knock on my bedroom door toward the bottom of the door. I suspected it was my siblings, but I didn't hear anyone run away or giggle. I even got my sister to start meditation, but she stopped soon after seeing orbs in her room. On a different occasion, as I was going to bed, this toy my mom had stored in a plastic bag in my closet for the flea market that we had every weekend went off. It was one of those kids' toys that's a wheel with pictures of farm animals, where you place a dial and it makes the animal sound. The cow goes moo type of stuff. It was so quiet in my room that the toy going off startled me. My eyes focused on the closet to the source of the sound, waiting for it to stop, except it didn't stop. In fact, the noise somehow jumped from the closet to the center of my room. Before I had time to even understand what was going on, the noise jumped to the opposite corner of my room. It felt like something had captured the sound of the toy and was leaping to every part of my room. I no longer wanted to deal with this, so I put my earphones in, turned my iPod on, and went to bed. One thing Shino taught me was that when you're caught off guard in an interaction with the spirit, the best thing you can do is not emote. Try your best to suffocate any emotional response, and you will have succeeded. I guess sometimes spirits are looking for a dramatic emotional response from humans. My peak experience, or a big one after the previous, was a few months later. I was awoken in the middle of the night, like all of a sudden I opened my eyes. Kind of hard to explain. It wasn't even that I heard something or something touched me. I just woke up. I look around my room, and standing feet from me was the friend who introduced me to Shino, Chris. Let me first state that at the time I lived in Queens, and he lived in the Bronx. For Chris to suddenly be in my room in the middle of the night meant he took a 2-hour commute to just show up in my room unannounced, let alone breaking into my house. I focus my eyes, and despite the room being dark, I can see Chris clearly. Like somehow he's lit up brighter than the rest of the environment, as so to stand out. It looks like my friend's clothes are right and everything. He or it was looking back at me. I say softly, "Chris," and the figure smiles, but it was a creepy smile, leering at me almost, a mischievous or maybe even evil smile. I repeat again, "Chris," fully knowing that whatever I was looking at was in fact not Chris. Holding the smile, the figure jumps back into the darkness. Physically speaking, it meant that if the figure were a person, he would have jumped into my closet doors, which I kept closed on purpose. Instead, it just disappeared into the darkness, leaving a gust of wind in its wake. That lasted for a couple seconds. The displacement of air was so strong it physically moved my hair and my bed covers. I maintained my sight on where the entity was and thought that was weird, and then I went back to bed.
Primary Election Day is Tuesday, June 4th. Now is the time to make a plan. Whether you plan to vote absentee by mail, in person at your county auditor's office before Election Day, or at your polling place on June 4th, it's important you take steps now to make your plan at voterready.iowa.gov. Remember, Election Day is Tuesday, June 4th. Find more info at voterready.iowa.gov. This message is presented by the Iowa Secretary of State.
Looking back, I was keeping in mind what Shino said about emotions, but I still think it's weird to find a person or a creature in your room and just go back to bed like it's nothing. I haven't had another experience like that since, but at the same time, I stopped meditating around senior year of high school. I'm picking it up again, so if I see anything weird, I'll make sure to update you guys. Whew. All right. Oscar, first off, thank you for taking the time to submit your experience. Yeah, weird. It falls into the theory and way of thinking that I've been subscribed to for as long as we've been doing this, that altered states of consciousness tend to open up or kind of cause whatever these entities are, whatever this phenomena is, to gravitate toward us. I feel like it opens doors. I feel like it is a defense mechanism that keeps these things fairly locked out for the most part. But when we go into altered states, whether it be through hallucinogens, meditation, near-death experiences, lucid dreaming, I feel like the veil that is our consciousness kind of thins. I'm kind of on the fence. Like, they can probably get at us when it's locked up, but we can't necessarily get at them. But once we start meditating and shit, like, we can open that door and send signals out just as much as we can get signals in, if that makes sense. But it's weird that it starts really hitting in when you start meditating. And
yeah, I don't know, it's almost like seeing that entity in the end is disturbing for several reasons, because it obviously rooted around in your past and found something familiar and used it against you. And then the fact that it was just like it was there to make itself known.
yeah,
Almost like a warning, like, okay, if you're here, then I'm here.
yep, you knocked, I answered.
Yeah. Like, here I am.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was just like this. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's not like a welcome to the party. But in a way it was like, it was an acknowledgement of like, well, if you're going to start doing this is the type of shit you're going to deal with. Or thanks for letting me out or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the facial expressions, even the way that you took them in as it being essentially malevolent, it says something. Like, you have to trust your gut on those kind of things. And like, right off the rip, you said it didn't seem like it was nice. The fact that it, like Kyle said, took somebody close to you, being your friend, and essentially mimic them. Mimics are creepy to me. Like, well, that's been kind of a thing I've been on lately. Like, the idea of that is just terrifying to me, first off. And it's also weird that they could have mimicked anyone from your entire existence. Your siblings, your mother, your father, any of that. But it mimicked the one thing that connected you to Shino, who is essentially the one that got you into, studying entities, into occult, into meditation. It's almost like they're maybe like using you to get to him or some shit. I don't know. It's weird.
I definitely feel like there's a little bit more of a complex explanation behind it. I didn't think about that either, about it used the one person to link him to Shino.
Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe I don't know. I almost feel like things get attached to people and they can be passed off to other people. Maybe Shino had whatever this was connected to him, and he was trying to get it off of his back, and you just happen to get the meditation right, to get it to where you're interested in it, and all of a sudden this thing pops up mimicking you and his friend.
It's also weird that it stopped once he stopped meditating.
Yeah, like he locked it back out. It's like, nope,
Yeah.
I'm good. But I'm curious, Oscar, as to now that you've started meditating again. I'm not sure when you sent this over, because I just went through and tossed them all in a folder over here. But if things have fired back up,
That would be interesting to know.
yeah, I'd like to know more about Shino's background. What other kind of occult things he was into. Because, I mean, you specifically used that term, the guy who taught me about this part of the occult, which, I mean, that's almost sounds like he's probably dabbling in a smorgasbord of the occult if he's just trying to get high schoolers into meditation and stuff. So
It is.
And I'm not saying this is
weird.
negative, because I know people meditate all the time, yada, yada, yada. I know people are going to twist our words around and whatever, but it is, especially that he's so much older than you guys, because, like when you're in high school, you're easy to manipulate, let me tell you.
This is true.
Yeah.
So hopefully it was nothing nefarious like that.
Yeah, you buy into all kinds of shit when you're young. So, I don't know. It doesn't sound like he's that great of a character. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that wasn't your buddy Chris in your bedroom that night, especially since he disappeared into the closet door.
Definitely.
But yeah, if, I don't know. There are people out there that are way more knowledgeable on this kind of thing than I am, but like I said, I fully subscribe to when we alter our consciousness, I think it expands it essentially. When we're awake and we're dialed in on being human, I feel like we close it down quite a bit with our everyday struggles and everything going on and stresses and this, that, and the other. But when you do these things that alter that perception is when like you really, really let it out to its full potential. So I'm curious as to if you started meditating again, if things fire back up.
Yeah,
Because
I would definitely say that whatever clone Chris was is definitely. I feel like there's some nefarious stuff going on there.
Yeah, because even he said his little sister was meditating and she started seeing orbs in her room. So whatever was unlocked, almost like it knew you guys were starting to dabble in this stuff and it was ready. Like it saw you fiddling with the lock and it was ready for you to get that door open. So it's weird.
Yeah, it's a disturbing encounter to say the least.
Yeah. But we appreciate you sending it in. Definitely get back to us and hit us up if things have taken off again now that you've started meditating. Fill us in with any more information about Shino. Is he still like in connection with you and Chris? Are you and Chris still in connection? I'm curious to see how all the players in the field kind of still link up. But again, thank you, and hopefully you hear this because we'd like some follow-up. That being said, thanks again for hanging out with us this week. Check us out on all our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Join the Holocult, not as bad as it sounds. Till we meet again, stay safe, stay weird, and just know when you're knocking on doors, you aren't sure who's going to answer them.
Primary Election Day is Tuesday, June 4th. Now is the time to make a plan. Whether you plan to vote absentee by mail, in person at your county auditor's office before Election Day, or at your polling place on June 4th, it's important you take steps now to make your plan at voterready.iowa.gov. Remember, Election Day is Tuesday, June 4th. Find more info at voterready.iowa.gov. This message is presented by the Iowa Secretary of State.